Jeremy's Raceway, Chapter 5, Jeremy's Memorial. A week later, the town gathered once more. This time, no one came seeking answers. They came to remember. The memorial was held at the entrance to the raceway. Rows of folding chairs stretched across packed gravel road. Workers had spent the previous evening cleaning the area as best they could. Fresh flowers surrounded the concrete foundation beneath the entrance sign. Someone had placed photographs nearby. Others had left handwritten notes, small toys, work gloves, and other mementos. No one had asked them to. The items simply appeared throughout the week. Some called it a memorial. Others quietly called it a grave. No one knew which was true. The towering sign stood overhead, still covered by a heavy canvas draped across its face. The concrete foundation beneath it remained untouched. The same foundation poured over the place where Jeremy had vanished. Friends and family filled the chairs. Ben Carter, Owen Pike, and Luke Harper sat together near the front with their families. Old friends, coworkers, and neighbors filled the remaining rows. Along the back stood the Raceway crew, shoulder to shoulder, many of them unable to remember a time when Jeremy had not been part of the project. Emily sat between the Newberries and the Mark family. Mayor Newbury's wife held one of her hands, while Edwin Mark sat quietly nearby. Across from them, Jared Newbury watched the covered sign without taking his eyes from it. Family surrounded them on all sides, offering what comfort they could. The pastor spoke first. He stood before the foundation for a moment, his hands folded quietly. The morning breeze tugged gently at his coat. When he finally spoke, his voice carried easily across the gathering. Most of us spent our lives wondering what kind of mark we will leave behind. His eyes drifted across the crowd. Some leave buildings. A few heads turned toward the raceway. Some leave memories. Several people smiled sadly, and some leave both. The pastor paused. We gather here today because we mourn what was lost. His eyes lifted toward the covered sign. But we also gather because we are grateful for what was given. The pastor stepped back slightly. Today belongs to his family. His words drifted across the crowd in the cool morning air. When he finished, Mayor Newbury slowly rose and walked toward the foundation. His eyes swept across the crowd before settling briefly on his family. For a moment, he simply stood there. Then he spoke. When we started building the raceway, people said it couldn't be done. A few tired smiles appeared. They were probably right. A small ripple of laughter moved through the crowd. The first genuine laughter anyone had heard in days. It took 11 years. His eyes drifted downward. 11 long years. The laughter faded. My son spent most of those years at the site. Everyone knew that was true. Jeremy had practically lived there. The raceway had become part of him. He missed birthdays, a few chuckles. He missed holidays, more nods. He missed more dinners than Emily would ever let him forget. This time, even Emily smiled, just briefly. Then the mayor grew serious. The things people keep getting wrong is why. The crowd listened. It wasn't the raceway. Several heads tilted. Mayor Newbury looked toward Emily, then back to the crowd. My son wasn't there because he loved concrete. A few smiles appeared. He wasn't there because he loved race cars. The mayor's voice softened. He was there because he loved people. Silence filled the gathering. He wanted jobs for his town, a better future for his family, a place where his son could grow up believing there would always be a reason to stay. The mayor's voice faltered only slightly, and he wanted his father to be proud of him. For a moment he could not continue. The crowd sat in complete silence. When he finally spoke again, his voice sounded tired. The family has spent the last week discussing what comes next. He glanced towards Emily, then towards his family, then toward the rest of the family gathered around them. The truth is, we don't know exactly what happened last night. A few heads nodded, and unless God chooses to answer that question someday, we may never know. His eyes drifted toward the raceway, beyond the crowd. But we have reached a decision. The gathering seemed to hold its breath. The foundation beneath the sign will remain exactly where it is. A quiet murmur moved through the crowd. We will not disturb it. The mayor swallowed. If Jeremy is there, then it is where he rests. His voice cracked. And if he isn't, then it is still the last place he built with his own hands. Many in the crowd began to cry. The raceway was his life's work. The mayor looked toward Emily. It belongs to his son now. Silence filled the gathering. And from this day forward, that foundation will stand as Jeremy Newbury's memorial. No one applauded, no one spoke, but through the gathering, heads slowly nodded. Not because they liked the decision, because they understood it. Mayor Newbury stepped toward the foundation. A long moment, he simply stared at it. Then he removed his hat. The crowd followed. Hundreds of hats came off. One by one, the old mayor rested a hand on the concrete. When he finally spoke, his voice carried across the crowd. If there were another explanation, I'd take it. No one doubted that. If there were another possibility, I'd believe it. Several people lowered their heads. But Jeremy taught me something. The mayor let his eyes wander across the crowd. He saw Ben Carter standing beside Sarah, the woman who would have lost her husband years ago had Jeremy not climbed that crane. He saw Owen Pike staring at the foundation, carrying the helpless expression of a man who desperately wanted to return a favor and couldn't. He saw Luke Harper wiping tears from his face, no longer bothering to hide them. Beyond them stood the Raceway crew, Mike Reynolds, Charlie Foster, Hank Wilson, and dozens more. Men who had spent 11 years laughing with Jeremy, arguing with him, eating lunch beside him, and building something they believed would outlast all of them. Then his eyes found Emily. For a moment, he simply looked at her. The young woman had waited through 11 years of late nights, missed holidays, unfinished dinners, and promises that the raceway would be done soon. One hand rested gently against her stomach. His grandson. A child Jeremy had talked about endlessly, but would never hold. The mayor swallowed hard. Then he looked away. This teaches me that avoiding truth doesn't change it. The words hung in the air. Painful. Necessary. I believe my son is here. Several heads lowered to quietly wipe away tears. Others just stood quietly. The raceway will open tomorrow. Several people looked surprised. The raceway will succeed. The mayor's hand remained on the foundation. And from this day forward, it will bear my son's name. Everyone looked up at the sign as the canvas was pulled away. Huge letters stretched across the entrance, lit in brilliant light impossible to miss. Jeremy's Raceway.